Humanity is bound to change more in the next 20 years than in all of human history. We can't predict the changes. Every day becomes an invitation to prepare for the future we want to build. Highways without drivers. Education without classrooms. Healthcare without doctors. 2 billion jobs will come and go, freeing up talent for many new, unknown, burgeoning industries. The first hurricane may be stopped entirely by human intervention. It'll be common to use next-generation search engines to search the physical world. And basic computer programming will be considered a core skill required in most jobs. That's what the world ahead will look like. Where the world goes is up for debate, but how we prepare for it is not. Cloud computing, big data, analytics, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and more. Oracle, the world's most complete cloud company, will be there.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senior Vice President, Oracle Security and Systems Management, Prakash Ramamurthy.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm here to talk to you guys about Oracle's offerings around systems management and security, Oracle Management Cloud. So let's get started. I have a packed agenda for you guys today. Let me get started by telling you what Oracle Management Cloud is. I know this is a pretty busy slide. I'm going to distill it down. Oracle Management Cloud is an integrated suite of capabilities that allows you to do 5 things. 1, it allows you to intelligently and completely monitor all your applications. When I say intelligently, I mean being able to understand normal behavior of your applications, identify anomalies, and being able to alert you only when there is a problem, not with everything. That's number 1. Number 2, when you do find a problem, we want to provide you with the capabilities to be able to do rapid troubleshooting. You do rapid troubleshooting by not giving you all the data that we have. You do rapid troubleshooting by giving you the absolute minimum amount of data that you need to solve your problem. So we understand how your applications are put together, although we collect all the metrics, all the logs. We just give you the right amount of information for you to be able to quickly fix a problem when you do encounter one. Number 3, we have capabilities that allows you to secure your applications better and also make sure that your applications are compliant, both from a configuration perspective and also from a standards perspective, right? Number 4, we have a auto remediation framework that helps you tie these things together. When you do get common alerts for which you have standard runbook, whether it is to increase your authentication strength when there is a security issue, or you need to reboot your container or spin up a new container when there's a capacity issue, you have standard runbooks. Instead of just alerting you, we allow for you to auto-remediate so that the application continues to run. Underpinning all of that, to make these things work, we collect a ton of data. So we also have, as our 5th capability, the ability to do speed of thought analytics on your IT data. So if you want to step back and look at your performance bottlenecks over the last 12 months, if you want to look at capacity, if you want to forecast and plan, we provide an analytics framework that uses all the data that we collected to monitor the health of your system to do that. And we do that effectively by collecting all this data in one place, enrich it, and run some machine learning that are purpose-built to secure and monitor your applications. And one more thing, we absolutely do not care where your applications are running. They could be running on-premise, they could be running on our cloud, they could be running on Amazon or Azure or wherever else you want to run it. And we are also agnostic of the technology stack that you run on. Okay, whether you run on WebLogic or you run on any other Java container or non-Java, we are completely agnostic to that. That's in essence what Oracle Management Cloud is. So I'm going to quickly now go through and refresh you guys on what we have done in our management offerings, what is coming new, and also talk to you about the security offerings. From a management perspective, we have a unified monitoring capability, which is the most comprehensive, goes from being able to monitor your real users to your infrastructure, all the way down to your data tier. We can today monitor not just web-based applications, but your mobile applications. And also, we can also do synthetic monitoring of your applications as well. We have recently added additional capabilities for you to not only look at poor performing SQL, but automatically be able to go look at the actual SQL performance for that poorly performing SQL as well, so that you can go from looking at an end user's experience all the way to looking at the errand SQL all in one place for the issue that you're just seeing. And like I said, we continue to reinforce our commitment to heterogeneity, and we continue to add more platforms that we support. From a log perspective, as I told you briefly, this one place where we can aggregate logs just about any place that you have in your IT estate. So we can aggregate here, we can let you analyze that. But I want to call out two nifty things that we have. The first thing is what we call topology-aware log exploration. What that really means is you can go and say, hey, show me all the logs from my billing application, or show me all the logs from my registration application, without having to memorize the containers that it's running on, the web server is running on, which IP addresses they are in, and so on and so forth. The reason we can do that is not because a log solution understands topology. It's because it's integrated with the monitoring solution, which understands topology. So when we bring all of this together, we are able to provide a better and effective solution. The other thing that we also are worked on is what we call plain language analysis. This is where you can come and say, hey, show me all the errors related to memory. You don't need to memorize the Aura errors to know that. There might be some in database, some might be some in middleware. We take care of that. So we can approach this data in a much more manageable form because of what we are doing. There's stuff that we do around business transaction, but I'm going to wait for the demo where Amit can explain it much better than I can through words. He has a nifty demo on that. Or moving on to IT analytics, this is where I talked about your ability to do speed of thought analysis of all the IT data that is there. And we have recently added a ton of capabilities purpose-built for our Exadata customers to be able to do analysis across their Exadata fleet. And we continue to add more capabilities in this area. And I wanted to quickly segue to how you do that for our Exadata customers. I'm sure there are a ton of Enterprise Manager customers here. What we have done is we have provided the most seamless integration of Oracle Management Cloud for our Enterprise Manager customers. So all the capabilities that I just talked about are easily available one click by deploying one harvester and pointing it to the Enterprise Manager, and we are able to get all the data, all the metrics, all your groups, all the things that you have invested in over the last 10 plus years with Enterprise Manager to Oracle Management Cloud, allows you to do analytics, allows you to do log exploration, and all of that. And what we are working on, and we'll probably release it in the first half of next year, is the notion of federation of enterprise managers. We have heard customers tell us, hey, we have different enterprise manager deployments for different business units or different geographies, but there are still people in the company who have an overall responsibility, and they wanted to see what's happening across their enterprise manager estate. So we are working on allowing you to be able to bring all this data from these various enterprise managers into a single place in Oracle Management Cloud. This is the new service that we launched early part of this year. This is the one that I talked about early on, to be able to orchestrate, where you can schedule your workflows to be executed at any given time, whether you want to run a configuration check or if you want to do spin up or spin down. And you also can tie this orchestration to your standard alerts to auto control your application, or take care of the common problems that you have. So the orchestration service is now part of the Oracle Management Cloud platform. And oh, by the way, it is language agnostic. The solution doesn't impose any language. You can use your favorite chef recipes or your Python scripts, whatever you have, just hook it up to this to do the auto remediation. And Larry yesterday talked about autonomous databases. We are coming out with a set of capabilities that will help you lift and shift on-premise workloads to the cloud, purpose-built workflows for moving these workloads from on-premise to the cloud if it's production workloads, or to be able to do some kind of dev test where you want to continually refresh. So this capability will come out along with the autonomous database that's coming out. And we also have deep diagnostics and performance analysis capabilities for this autonomous database, all available on Oracle Management Cloud. Similarly, for Java Cloud Service and Integration Cloud Service, we have done custom-built capabilities for you to be able to manage a fleet of ICS, for example, and also to be able to trace events that are going across multiple ICS and so on and so forth. Lastly, for our Apps Unlimited customers, we have purpose-built integration for ATG, where you can look at order flow and see where your orders are getting stuck. You can look at how your web transactions are working. We have purpose-built integration for EBS customers. We have integration for Siebel and PeopleSoft, all of it available out of the box for you. So talking about PeopleSoft, I want to introduce Samir Marella from Stanford. He's the Senior Director of HR and Middleware for Stanford. Thank you for joining us. So Samir is one of our early adopters of Oracle Management Cloud, and I thought it will be more interesting to hear from him than from me. So Samir, thank you for joining us.
Right. So thanks, Prakash. Hi, everyone. I manage student HR and middleware groups at Stanford. And when Stanford students come in, they have a high expectation of performant and reliable systems. And functionally, we have achieved most of that desire. But on the performance-wise, as our application landscape became more complex, we needed a centralized place that was both visually appealing and technically capable to integrate logs from our complex heterogeneous applications and provide us a central view to what's actually going on with the infrastructure. So at that time, we worked with Oracle to implement the OMC on the log analytics and the application performance monitoring.
So how long have you been using Management Cloud?
So we've been a customer for a year now, since it took us about a couple of months to implement. And from then on, we've been live.
OK, so we talked about the log capabilities, and when I was talking to you off stage, you're telling me you're looking at some of the other capabilities as well that we have, right?
Right.
So before we go to that, tell us exactly what your experience was prior to OMC in terms of managing this PeopleSoft environment, so that we can contrast that with what we were able to help you with.
Right. And most of you are in IT operations, you will know that you have a lot of prep work before a particular spike in workload, and then if something happens, then there is a lot of investigation about what is the root cause analysis and what can we do better for the next time. So our life was no different. But while we did most of the prep work based on best practices and advices from other load engineers, our root cause analysis was quite hampered because the logs were spread on so many different hosts. Collecting the logs from all the different hosts and then putting them together to piece a centralized picture of what actually went wrong with a particular customer's journey on the application was extremely tough. So I think what OMC gave us is we were able to suck in all the logs and then trace a student's journey from click directly to the SQL, and then we are able to exactly see which point within the infrastructure had a hiccup, and then we were able to do some root cause analysis to fine-tune it for the next time. In addition to that, I'm looking forward to getting more predictive analytics of that. So see when load is going up and then auto-deploy hosts or increase the capacity, so on and so forth.
And you had mentioned something about doing analytics on the data as well, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
So that was more to find out a few things. Number one, basically, how's the customer's experience with the administration itself? How do we then enhance that experience by collecting data from both structured data and unstructured data if it's captured in other systems in the university? And last but not the least, the root cause analysis is of paramount importance because universities go through a regular cycle, but the students keep changing and their expectations keep growing exponentially. And that's a big challenge on the IT side for us.
All right, there you have it, guys. If you have kids in Stanford, they should have a better class registration experience next quarter. So thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to quickly shift gears and talk a bit about what we have in our security offerings. We spent a lot of time talking about our management offerings. I want to talk a little bit about security and to tell you what we just launched and went live. The security monitoring and analytics capability that we have is built on top of all the information that you would collect to manage your application. So all the logs that you collect, all the metric information that you collect, we use that to enrich that with some real-time global threat feeds to help monitor for anomalous events, whether it's security-related events or user behavior or accessing your system. So I don't know how many of you guys listened to Larry's keynote yesterday. He was talking about the example of a person masquerading as a CFO from Ukraine logging in at 3 in the morning. So this solution is the one that powers all of that. So we know the CFO is not typically in Ukraine, right? That's the user behavior part of that. We know that he or she doesn't log in at 3 in the morning to mess with the financial systems. And better yet, we know they don't even mess with the financial system. So understanding the behavior, the normal behavior, to understand then the anomaly from it is what this solution provides. Since it's built on top of the log capability for the most part, it allows you to do real-time search for security events that have been collected already as part of collecting your logs. And the last thing is this. This is what I told you early on in tying back to our orchestration service. When you see a security event, and especially when the threats are progressing, you want to automatically do some remediation to harden those systems. So the ability for the security system to automatically harden your environment, whether it means locking out a user or enhancing the authentication strength and so on and so forth, is part of this security monitoring and analytics solution. And the next one we have is around configuration and compliance. So as most of you as operators know, you start off with the nice, perfect configuration that you have for your data tier and your app tier and so on and so forth. But as more and more databases get created and more applications get onboarded, it is natural to start seeing drifts in there, right? Drifts in configuration settings and drifts in patch levels. And we all know what happens when you have drifts in patch levels, right? Most recently, some of the breaches have been because it hasn't been patched. And it's an easy thing to fix. You just need some solutions that can flag that and effectively help you do that. So the configuration and compliance service allows us to be able to manage your drifts, give you all the capabilities you need, and also allows you to make sure that you're compliant to standards like GDPR or STIG or whatever else you might have that you need to be aware of. So a lot of machine learning goes into us determining the configuration drift, for example, and also in the earlier part when I talk about anomalous behavior, we are able to continuously baseline to find out the anomalies. So typically, I would have a demo for this, but we have figured that Larry wants to do a session tomorrow on security, so please attend the session tomorrow to see a demo of all our security capabilities in his keynote. So I quickly want to now roll a video of one of our customers, Adani Ports from India. They are an existing customer who use Management Cloud, who are now looking to expand their footprint into the security solution. So if you could roll the video, please.
We have been looking for some good system management tools, wherein Oracle, since we have a lot of Oracle applications and Oracle systems presence in our company, we thought Oracle Management Cloud is the best solution for us, mainly for application performance monitoring, IT analytics, log analytics. The idea is, the way we look at is, we should not have more manpower to manage things. We need to get in the machine learning, artificial intelligence, and analytics into our core environments. Our environment is quite heterogeneous, and then we have seen that OMC is taking care of all these kind of heterogeneous environment. The most important thing while selecting OMC was the capabilities of machine learning and artificial intelligence. That's what we looked for when we have selected OMC. So I think the machine learning and artificial intelligence part is very important when we look at the user experience. We want to understand the user experience of all the applications, where systems are slow. So that's where the APM actually moves the issues towards the log analytics and checks where the issue is. So that's where the log analytics also helps us. Earlier we used to have people monitoring from 13 locations. Right now I don't need those monitoring. It's the OMC which is going to tell us proactively when there is any issue which is going to happen. We are making it as a discipline that any system which goes live has to go with OMC deployed on it by default.
All right, I always like it when the customer says any application has to have OMC deployed to it. I want more customers to say that. So I want to shift gears a bit and talk about what all the hoopla is about machine learning and how we are using it, what we hear from customers about why they think they need machine learning, right? So let me tee it up for you guys. Why do we think we want to do machine learning? Not because we want to look cool, right? By definition in this space, if you look at it, there is no dearth of data. No customer ever tells us we don't have enough telemetry. We don't have enough logs. In fact, most customers tell us we have way too much logs. We archive it or we roll it out because I don't want it to fill up the disk. We have too much metrics. So this area around systems management and security is very natural fit for us to be able to apply some intelligence to separate out the real signal from the noise. That's one thing. The second thing is the type of data that we get is highly patterned. If you take a look at logs, it's most of the times reams and reams of logs with the same pattern, with maybe the IP address change or the timestamp change or something highly patterned but highly voluminous. And those are kind of well suited for us to be able to apply machine learning to it, to learn from it, to be able to alert on it. And most importantly, customers are actually telling us, I do not want another solution that will give me a dashboard of data. I want a solution that gives me a dashboard of insights. So that's the reason why we decided to invest in machine learning. So I want to invite Dr. Steve Pratt from Centerpoint to come and tell us about how he thinks machine learning is going to be useful, how he's using OMC and how he plans on using our machine learning. Steve, if you could join me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So can you tell us a little bit about your role and also about Centerpoint? I don't know if people have heard about it. So
Absolutely. So I am the CTO of an energy delivery company based in Houston, Texas, Centerpoint Energy, and I see my role as really being twofold. One's an internal role I have responsibility for assessing technology, determining it's the right technology for our business needs, determining that the technology is properly managed. And then I have an external role. It's applying technology to improve our customer experience and applying technology to increase the productivity of our employees.
I know you're currently in the process of rolling out Management Cloud. Can you talk a little bit about where you're using it and why do you think you need this?
Absolutely. Think of an application that runs hundreds of thousands of transactions, and each of those transactions are fed into a regulatory body. And for each of those transactions that fail or do not get to that regulatory body over a period of time, you are fined as an organization. That's the type of application that needs to be up and running all the time. That's the type of application that needs to be properly managed. That's the type of application that we need to be aware of any issues with in real time. And so this is our transaction management hub, which is a system that communicates energy information from our customers into the Energy Regulatory Commission of Texas. And it is such an application that requires us to have that level of reliability, that level of availability. It, as I mentioned, processes many, many hundreds of thousands of transactions, and as a result, we need to be able to capture anything that's taking place within those environments, monitor, manage that, recognize imperfections or anomalies in what's transacting, and make corrections in real time or in an automated fashion if possible.
All right. And we have talked offline about machine learning and how we are developing some capabilities, and you have given us feedback in the past. Can you tell a little bit about why you think machine learning is very important for this class of problems that we are dealing with?
Absolutely. I think this is a perfect application for machine learning and artificial intelligence for that matter. Number one, it generates so much data in such a short period of time that human beings simply can't deal with that amount of data or assess that data in a meaningful way in a range of time that's meaningful as well. So we need to have capabilities in the management space, intelligent management capabilities, that allow the technology to assess that active system, determine if it's running within the appropriate boundaries, running in a normal way, or determine if it's coming outside of the boundaries and take action relative to identifying what the reason is and responding to that in an automated way as well. This particular system, along with other systems it's connected to, takes in about 300,000 transactions or events a second. We simply can't apply human beings to assessing those events and making adjustments within that system in a timely manner, which would result in us being able to have meaningful results. So applications such as Oracle Management Cloud are perfect for applying artificial intelligence, as well as advanced analytics, as well as all of the things you described earlier in meeting that demand for that type of application.
Great. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. I wish you good luck in your deployment and going live.
Thank you.
All right. This is my most favorite part of the presentation. We're going to do some demos and of real capabilities that we have built, and it's live. And joining me now to do that is Amit Ganesh, SVP Product Development. And thanks, Amit. And it's a third year in a row. I'm sure you have some interesting things to show us. So I'll see the stage to you, and you can walk us through some scenarios.
Thank you, Prakash. I got to first start out by saying that we are off to a really incredible start this year. I want to thank our development team because they have been working really hard to bring some amazing innovations in Management Cloud, both in management and security. I'm going to show you a small sliver of what we are doing, but hopefully that excites you and gets you motivated to see some of the demos that we have in the demo grounds.
Yeah, please. There's demo grounds which have more extensive demos as well. So
I'm going to get started with actually, before I go into this, I want to maybe talk a little bit about the first part of our demo. We're going to talk about business transactions. This is something that we have added to Management Cloud as a really new, powerful capability. business transactions are really simple. They're basically application flows where typical applications that go through various stages, which are individual stages. Sometimes you need to really reason with those applications as a complete flow dealt with all together. To give you an example, you may have, for example, I'm going to use that in this demo here. You may have an order fulfillment application. An order fulfillment application, a user submits an order in there, then that submitted order goes through credit card processing. Maybe then I invoke something in my inventory to do some updates there. And then maybe I call one of my partner services, for example, that does logistics, shipping and all that good stuff, right? So that's typically how an order fulfillment transaction works, where all these different web services get integrated using something like SOA or maybe an integration cloud or something like that. The real challenge that comes with business transactions is that you don't really want to reason with individual activity in individual web services. You really want to reason with the whole business transaction taken as one single integral unit. So let me start out with log analytics and show you exactly how we do that in Management Cloud.
Okay.
Okay, so what you're seeing here is log analytics just focused on the order fulfillment application. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the detailed log entries of that application. Now the nice thing is all these logs are together in one place where I can do search and analytics and all that good stuff on. But this doesn't really give me the big picture of what's going on in my applications, because it doesn't tell me anything about business transactions. It's telling me things about log records. So how do I deal with that? So to help with that, we have come up with a brand new capability in Oracle Management Cloud called links. So here, let me go set that up so you can see that in action. So I'm going to configure links. Configuring links essentially is for what I need to, all I really need to do is to identify, you can think of like a primary key, the core attributes that define a flow. In this case, for order fulfillment, that would be my order ID, and maybe a step name that my orders go through, and it'll be a little bit clear what that means. And that is all I really need to do. So let me go ahead and submit that. And now what you see suddenly is something really interesting. Those log records are all gone. Instead of working with log records and doing analytics on log records, now you're suddenly doing analytics on something much more closer to your business, which is actually an entire business transaction. So what you see in here on the left, for example, you see an order ID 114999. So this is an instance of an individual order that got discovered. Further to the right, you can see a step name that's happening that comprises this order. You can see all the steps that make this order. You can see the number of log records inside this order. You can see when it started, when it ended. You can see the duration that each of these steps take. Now, if I wanted to go switch back and see those log records, I can still do that. Let me show you an example. I can click on one of these steps, and now I can see all the individual records that comprise this step. So it gives me a view of the business transaction. It still gives me the ability to deep dive, diagnose at the lowest level of granularity. So as you can see, this is really powerful and very helpful to me. But imagine a scenario where my customers are telling me that, hey, maybe I have some stuck orders, and I need to deal with those orders, and I don't really know which orders are getting stuck and what's going on. So although this is really great that I can see the orders here, I still have, instead of 1.2 million raw records, I still have 71,905 business flows to produce through. That's still way too many flows for me to go page by page to see if there are any stuck orders. So what I'm going to show you here is this new capability, again, another new one that we have built, where you can take all this data and send it to our AI engine, then takes this data, runs it through machine learning, and perhaps it'll give me some interesting findings to help me troubleshoot through this problem. So let's see what happens. I'm going to click on Analyze, and wow, this is interesting. All those raw records are gone. All the business transactions are gone. Instead, what I'm left with is now with a very insightful view of what's happening with these business transactions. On the left, you see these blue circles. They're telling me the normal behavior that machine learning has learned about my application. And what's really interesting is you can really see the circles, the squares on the right. These are the ones, the x-axis here is actually the time. You may not be able to see it. It's so small font size. It's really telling me that some of these business transactions and some of the steps within them are taking an inordinately long period of time to execute. So I can now maybe click on it further and see what's going on. Here it's telling me that it has found 17 linked events. These are these business transactions. If I want, I can drill down further into them to the 637 log records. Remember, we started out with 1.2 million. I can go drill down and find out what's going on. It's telling me why this has been found as anomalous by my machine learning algorithms. It's telling me that, hey, normally these things take 1.5 to 17.5 seconds. Instead, it's taking almost 2 minutes to execute this step. Now, this is very insightful information because one of the steps I had in my workflow, in my business transaction, was actually going out into an external service provider like a logistics company. So maybe this is it's a shipment, so perhaps it's an issue with one of the web services. I call them so I can go diagnose it further. So as you can see here, this gives me incredible insight into what's happening. Remember, I started with 1.2 million records, and these were raw records. Then I took those 1.2 million records, I converted them, up-leveled them into 72,000 business transactions. I sent those into machine learning to then derive insights, like what's normal and what's not normal, that I can then act upon and maybe do some remediative action on.
So for all the things you just showed, outside of providing us the raw logs, does the customer need to do anything, or will the service take over from just taking over from the logs?
That's one thing that we really wanted to do here, to make the experience as easy as possible. So outside of just configuring the fact and identifying, letting Management Cloud know exactly which two fields in my logs across hundreds of different log sources, identify uniquely my order and step, I had nothing else that I needed to do. In fact, all those things that you saw, all the shipment stages and all those things were completely discovered by Management Cloud. In fact, if a new step comes in tomorrow, it will show up there automatically.
All right. You had one more demo you wanted to show, right?
Yeah. So what you saw here is machine learning applied to logs. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit. And to give you another example of how we apply machine learning, I'm going to show how machine learning applies to metrics and configs, the things that we work on a day-to-day basis. So let's switch gears a little bit. And before I do that, maybe I give you a little more context on this demo. This particular order application was built using a modern tech stack. I'm using containers and microservices and all that good stuff. I have more than 100 containers running this application. I have those containers actually running Node.js, so it's using a modern stack in there. And if you look at the number of components in the application, I have more than 1,000 actually different components that make up the application. These are functions and modules that application performance monitoring actually monitors. But the problem we'll set out to solve is one in which my customers are complaining that seeing some intermittent performance issues. So let me head over to Management Cloud and see how it helps me troubleshoot such a problem. So I'm going to start out with an application dashboard. This is my 360-degree view of everything happening about my application. I can see my alerts. I can see some business metrics here, like an order trend. I can see how my performance page is. But I don't really see any severe alerts showing up here. I don't see severe problems showing up. Everything looks quite reasonable, quite normal between logs, database, applications, everything. So I'm going to drill down into APM, see if I can find something more in there. Again, I don't see anything wrong with the infrastructure targets. Application performance monitoring is continuously monitoring end user experience that my customers of this applications are experiencing. And across all these geographies, I don't really see anything standing out. But I do know that some customers are reporting some intermittent problems. Now I have a real conundrum here because nothing is showing up. There are no thresholds being breached. But I still got a problem. So what do I do next? So the only thing that I'm really left with is going through those 1,400 different server requests that comprise my applications, clicking through each of them, and analyzing the metric streams in the hopes that I will find something or that might be indicative of that problem. It's really, really cumbersome for me to execute on, right? So here comes machine learning. I'm going to call my AI engine, see what it can do for me. So let's click on Analyze here, see what it has to find, what it found for me here. This is something very interesting. So it analyzed a lot of data, but it found only 2 anomalies. So this gives you an example of another example how machine learning is really powerful here. It was humanly impossible for me to go to 20,000 metric streams that pertain to my application and try to identify anomalies in it. Instead, what machine learning is doing here is it's going through all that data, thousands and thousands of data points, and really bringing out the things of interest to me. So, in fact, it found here that there were 2 containers that seem to have deviated from the norm of performance that everybody else is going through. So one thing I can do now is maybe run a correlation analysis to see if those 2 containers and that check credit card server request correlates with some other changes that are happening in my application. So let's go ahead and do that. Clicking and correlate, what it is now telling me is that it found that these 2 containers also happen to have a missing patch on their SSL library. Now, this is really interesting information that all the other containers, 255 containers, are OK, but just these 2 containers with the performance problem also seem to have a config problem in them. Now, SSL library patching issue could be a security problem that by itself is interesting to me, or perhaps this is the root cause of my performance problem. So as you can see, I get some tremendous insight by running correlation analysis, everything happening behind the scenes using machine learning in Management Cloud that then I can act upon and deal with. Now, one thing that you saw happen here is pretty common in most real-world environments where config issues can sometimes lead to problems, right? And I like to be proactive about them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to config management and see what I can do there. Okay, so let's go to config management and see what we can do there. So here I am at my database configuration management homepage. I can see my more than 400 databases. I can go through each of these databases. This is what you typically are used to doing in any other tool out there. I can click on a database. I can go see more details about the configuration about our database. But I got a real problem here. If I got 400 databases and I got thousands of configurations per database, how am I going to find what is anomalous? How am I going to find that drift that places one database different from everybody else that is out there? There's a lot of data in here. It's good that I got the data, but I don't know how to get the insights by simply clicking through each of these databases. So I'm really pleased to tell you that we have yet another groundbreaking innovation that I'm about to show you that we have developed using machine learning, where we take all this data and are able to create some incredible insights for you to consume. So let's invoke our AI engine and see what it discovered here. So what you're seeing here is a chart that shows the map of those 467 databases of how their configurations look, as opposed to imagine looking through millions of data points of what's going on with these configurations. What it has found, if you look in this insights section, is saying that there were 81 distinct configurations that machine learning discovered in my asset base. It's telling me that there were 3 centroid, that's a really techie word, so I'm not going to repeat that, but think of these as 3 clusters of similar configurations that are found. 3 large clusters. These are these 3 circles. Notice that I didn't enter anything here. Machine learning automatically discovered these 3 clusters for me. And if I want to know more details about them, I can click on that cluster and it can tell me more about it. For example, here it's telling me there are 97 entities that make that cluster. It's telling me the specific parameters that belong to that cluster. All this is automatically discovered for you. Not just that, now if I want to know what's going on with some of these databases that look like satellites around that cluster, I can actually click on them and do a comparison with that center of that cluster. And here I can see that this one database, sales test, has drifted away from the center, that center of that cluster, and I can see the specific parameters that has drifted away from. And now that I know these changes and I can see when they were done, I could actually right here click on remediate and make that database snap back to the cluster configuration that I would like it to be at.
This is the orchestration that can auto-remediate that for you.
When you click on remediate, it will actually invoke orchestration flow that will auto-remediate the situation.
Okay.
So here you can see some really powerful machine learning capabilities that we have built into every aspect of management and security. And like Prakash said, tomorrow, Larry Ellison in his keynote will talk more about what we are doing around security, and so you'll see more machine learning applied to security there. So one thing I wanted to kind of leave you with is that what we have done here by building machine learning into all aspects of management is that we have really fundamentally changed the way users do management, operations, and security. Instead of users having to go to thousands of pieces of data to understand what's going on in their system, to troubleshoot problems, instead machine learning is continuously analyzing thousands and thousands, maybe millions of data points to really bring those insights to our customers.
All right. Thanks, Amit. I appreciate it as always.
Thanks. Great to be here.
So lastly, I wanted to invite partners to join this ecosystem. We have a ton of partners. We have some partners here today as well. There is a lot of opportunity to just even go after the Oracle customer base, whether there's Apps Unlimited opportunities to bring Management Cloud, or if you want to go after Exadata to bring analytics, or for the security solution where customers are looking to look at the next generation. There's a lot of opportunities here. So please get yourself certified and take advantage of that. And lastly, we had only 45 minutes, and I know we are a couple of minutes over. We couldn't do justice to all the things that our teams have built, so please attend all these other sessions. And one more time, if you want to see the security demo that we have built with machine learning, please attend tomorrow's keynote. Thank you all for your time.